something just happened and you may not have fully registered it yet. In the complete and visible form of something significant having just occurred, because it did not happen in the loud and announced way of things that declare themselves as the significant events they are. When they arrive in the dramatic and unmistakable form of something that everyone in the room can see and register as the significant event it is in the visible and collective recognition form of something that does not require interpretation to be understood as what it is. It happened quietly in the specific and particular form of the most significant things, which almost always arrive quietly rather than dramatically for the person they are happening for. Even when the effect they produce in the people around the person they happened for is anything but quiet. The smirk just became tears, and you did not have to say a single word to make it happen. This reading has 4 layers. Stay for all 4, because the 4th layer contains the thing that this reading was sent to deliver before the significance of what just happened has been fully understood by the specific Virgo it happened for, which is you. Virgo, my beautiful Virgo, what just happened is for you, and this reading is here to make sure you understand what it is and why it happened and what it means for what comes next. Welcome, and do not go anywhere. The first layer, and this one is about the smirk, not the tears. The smirk first, because understanding the smirk completely is what makes the tears make sense. In the specific and proportionate form of a consequence that is exactly as large as the behavior that produced it, rather than larger or smaller, but exactly as large in the specific and just form of something that fitted perfectly into the space that the behavior had created, for the consequence that the behavior was always going to produce when enough time had passed. The smirk was not only the facial expression, I want to say that first, because the smirk as only the facial expression would be too small to deserve the full and specific attention that the first layer is giving it in the building toward the tears form of something that requires the full understanding to appreciate what the tears represent as the natural and arriving consequence of what the smirk actually was. The smirk was a belief in the specific and held form of someone who believed that they understood the situation between them and the specific Virgo. This reading found in the complete and confident form of someone who believed they had accurately assessed the positions of all the relevant people in the situation, including the Virgo's position, which they believed was below theirs in the specific and hierarchical form of an assessment that placed the Virgo in the subordinate and managed position rather than the equal or superior one that the Virgo actually occupies in the situation that the SMIRK holder was misreading in the confident and hierarchical form of a misreading so complete that it produced the smirk as the facial expression of someone who believes they have understood what they have in fact misunderstood in the specific and complete form of the misreading that the smirk was expressing. Spirit is showing me the specific form of what the smirk holder believed about the Virgo, and I want to name it precisely because the precise naming is what produces the recognition that lands in the chest of the Virgo reading this. In this seen completely form of something accurately described, they believed the Virgo needed them. In the specific and dependence assuming form of someone who had assessed the situation and concluded that the Virgo's position in it included a form of dependence on them, that gave them the leverage. They were operating from when the smirk was the expression of the leveraged and confident position they believed they occupied in the situation between them and the Virgo, who they believed needed them. In the dependent and therefore manageable form of someone whose position was below theirs, in the hierarchy, the smirk was expressing they were wrong in the specific and complete form of someone whose assessment of the situation was built on an inaccurate reading of the Virgo's actual position in it, and whose smirk was the expression of a confidence that was based on that inaccurate reading rather than the actual situation, which was different from the reading. In the specific and significant form of something that was about to reveal the inaccuracy of the reading to the person whose reading it was, in the smirk to tears form that the revelation took when it arrived. The second layer, stay with me, because this layer is where the smirk becomes tears in the specific and happening form of what actually occurred to produce the tears from the smirk that was the expression of the wrong assessment of the situation that just revealed the wrong assessment for what it was. What happened is that the Virgo's actual position became visible in the specific and undeniable form of something that could no longer be unseen or reinterpreted or managed into the below theirs position that the smirk holder's assessment had placed it in before the actual position became visible in the form that made the assessment undeniably wrong and the smirk undeniably inappropriate as the expression of a confidence that was built on the wrong assessment of the actual situation that has now revealed itself for what it actually is. The Virgo did not do anything to produce this. I want to say that clearly. And specifically, before the second layer goes further into what happened and why, because the not doing anything is the most important part of what produced the SMIRK to tears in the specific and significant form of what this reading is describing as what just happened. The Virgo simply continued being who they are in the specific and consistent form of someone who was not adjusting their being to the assessment the SMIRK holder had made of their position, or performing a reduced version of themselves that would have confirmed the assessment by fitting into the below theirs position that the SMIRK was expressing confidence about in the leveraged and hierarchical form of someone who believed they had correctly read where the Virgo stood. The not performing of the reduced version is what revealed the actual position in the undeniable and visibility producing form of someone who simply kept being what they actually are without the performing of what the assessment expected, and whose actual being revealed the assessment as wrong by simply continuing to be what the assessment had incorrectly placed in the below theirs position, that the SMIRK was the expression of. The most powerful thing the Virgo did was nothing, in the specific and extraordinary form of nothing that produces everything by simply refusing to be what the wrong assessment assumed the Virgo would be, when the SMIRK was the expression of the confidence in that assumption. The nothing produced the tears in the specific and consequential form of an assessment that revealed itself as wrong when the assumed performance did not arrive. Because the Virgo was not performing, they were simply being in the actual and unperformed form of who they actually are, which was not what the SMIRK was smirking about, and whose not being what the SMIRK expected produced the tears from the SMIRK that was expecting something else. The third layer, stay with me because this is the part that explains nobody wants to hear from them ever again. In the specific and arriving form of what is happening in the world around the SMIRK now tears person right now, as this reading finds the Virgo who produced the tears by simply being who they are, without the performance that the wrong assessment was expecting. The third layer is about the audience in the specific and now shifted form of the people who were around for the SMIRK and who are now around for the tears, and for whom the experience of being around for both has produced a very specific and particular shift in how they understand the situation. And the people in it, including the SMIRK now tears person and the Virgo, whose nothing produced the tears from the SMIRK that was smirking at them. The audience shift is significant in the specific and permanent form of a shift that does not reverse itself when the immediate energy of the moment has passed and the ordinary continues in the after the significant event form of the days that follow something that changed the understanding of the people who were around for it in the permanent and non-reversing form of a shift that is, once shifted, shifted permanently. For the people who experienced it in the around for both form of the smirk and the tears, that the nothing produced, the audience no longer believes the smirk now tears person in the specific and credibility lost form of someone whose smirk was based on an assessment that the tears have just proven was wrong. In the undeniable and audience visible form of something that everyone around could see was wrong, when the tears arrived to replace the smirk that had been expressing the wrong assessment in the confident and leveraged form that the audience was also seeing, when the smirk was the expression of it, before the tears revealed the assessment as wrong. Nobody wants to hear from them because the credibility that the smirk was the expression of has been revealed as misplaced by the tears that replaced the smirk, when the nothing the Virgo did produced the smirk to tears that the audience witnessed, and that shifted the audience's understanding permanently of who the credible person in the situation is and who is not, in the specific and now settled form of an understanding that has been updated by what everyone was around for. When the smirk became tears without the Virgo having to say a single word. The fourth layer, the most personal, and the one I almost did not include because it says something directly that the Virgo may not be fully ready to receive in the complete and unqualified form that this reading is going to deliver it in, because the complete and unqualified form is what the situation and the Virgo deserve from this reading that found them at this specific moment of the smirk having just become tears. I feel a question forming in you right now as the fourth layer arrives, and it is a specific question that I want to name before it speaks in the form it takes when it has not been addressed first. The question is not what comes next, though that question is also there. In the practical and forward-looking form of a Virgo mind that is already in the next situation, even while still in the current one, that the smirk to tears just resolved in the specific and significant form of something that just happened, without the Virgo having done anything to make it happen. Whew. The deeper question is this: should I feel something about this in the specific and morally checking form of a Virgo who is aware that the tears of another person, even a person who was smirking, is not something to be celebrated in the simple and uncomplicated way of someone who wanted this outcome and is now receiving it with the straightforward satisfaction of someone who got what they wanted from a situation that was difficult and that has now resolved in the wanted direction. The Virgo is checking in the specific and fair-minded form that the Virgo applies to every significant event, including the ones that resolve in their favor. Whether the resolving in their favor is something that is fully available to feel good about without the qualifying that the fair-minded checking produces when it runs its assessment on the appropriate emotional response to something that just happened. In the SMIRK to tears form, that the Virgo is now checking whether to feel satisfied about. I want to answer that question directly, and without the softening, that would make the answer more comfortable. But less true. You did not produce the tears, reality did, in the specific and just form of a reality that does not cooperate, with wrong assessments indefinitely, but that eventually reveals the wrong assessment for what it is when enough time has passed for the revealing to happen in the SMIRK to tears form that it just took for the specific situation. This reading is about the Virgo's only contribution was refusing to perform the reduced version of themselves that the wrong assessment expected, and that would have confirmed the wrong assessment if the Virgo had performed it as the confirmation the SMIRK holder was waiting for of the assessment that the SMIRK was the expression of. The refusing to perform the reduced version is not an action. It is simply being in the actual and unperformed form of who the Virgo actually is, which is not the reduced version that the wrong assessment placed them in, and who's not being the reduced version. Produce the tears from the SMIRK by simply existing in the accurate and unreduced form of the specific Virgo this reading found. You are allowed to feel the relief of a situation that has resolved accurately rather than in the wrong assessment form that the SMIRK was expecting it to resolve in before reality refused to cooperate with the wrong assessment and produce the tears instead. I want to give you something before this closes in the permission form that the fair-minded and morally checking Virgo reading this right now specifically needs permission to receive the relief without the qualifying in the specific and full form of someone who did not pursue this outcome or celebrate this outcome or cause this outcome by anything other than simply being who they are in the actual and unreduced form. That reality confirmed as the accurate form when the SMIRK became tears and nobody wanted to hear from the SMIRK holder ever again. Receive the relief. Virgo, in the full and unqualified form of someone who stayed who they are when staying was the harder choice than becoming the reduced version, that the wrong assessment was waiting to confirm, and whose staying produced the SMIRK to tears. That reality delivered on behalf of the specific Virgo, who simply continued being what they actually are. You are protected and real in the full and unreduced form. That reality just confirmed in front of everyone who was around for both the SMIRK and the tears, and who now knows what the Virgo is in the full and unperformed form of someone who did not need to say a single word for the truth of who they are, to be seen by everyone in the room. Take gentle care of yourself, my beautiful Virgo. The SMIRK is gone, and what replaced it was never yours to produce. It was reality doing. What reality does when it is given enough time, and a Virgo who refuses to become what wrong assessments want them to be.